City 0. Let's go back to the studio and let's join Natalie.
Thank you to Alistair Mann and Neil Lennon for the first half commentary. Welcome back to Matchday Live. I'm still joined by David James, Kevin Campbell and Paul Dickov. So it is 0-0 at half-time. Paul, what did you make of the first 45?
Yeah, I thought it was enjoyable. It started really well. Pressed Arsenal really high. Obviously, two great chances. The one that's been cleared off the line, Nathan Ake, and what was the other one I was going to say there? There's two in the one, weren't there?
Yeah, Ake.
Second one. Guardiola. Declan Rice off them. But yeah, no, comfortable. Arsenal have had a bit more possession going into the game. Can't really remember Ederson having a save to make. But yeah, pretty happy with that.
Yeah, Arsenal have had no shots on target as of yet. Possession's fairly even, 45% to 55%. City have got 55% of the possession. City started the game well. They came out of the blocks, had a few chances early on. Kevin, you must have been nervous at the start of that half.
Arsenal looked nervy, if I'm honest with you. They look as if they weren't sure what City were doing. And City obviously caught them on the hop. Especially when you get the ball coming in, you get an opportunity which Declan Rice heads off the line. Then the second ball comes in and Haaland wins the header, and Ake gets in. And if he had had a little bit more time, split second more time for the ball to come down, he probably would have made it 1-0. So that keeps Arsenal the jitters going. But I thought City settled much the better side. Obviously, they're the more complete side right now. And Arsenal haven't been themselves. Arsenal have come into the game a little bit, as Paul said, but as an attacking threat, up until the box, they get there. But there's no Alvarez and there's no Haaland for Arsenal. So that seems to be the difference.
It does feel like Arsenal were getting more into the game as the first half went on, though. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking of me mentioning Zinchenko in that Aston Villa game a couple of seasons ago. Odegaard went to the fans, got them to start cheering, and it wasn't instant, but gradually the team got in it. I think the key thing here is that David Raya was under a lot of pressure, obviously, because he was making a lot of errors. And for some reason, I'm not sure, it was difficult to tell watching the screen whether Arsenal slightly tweaked the formation for him to play out, but City didn't go and press him, which gave him a little bit more freedom to make a cleaner ball, and then all of a sudden he's passing better and everything started to turn. So I'm not going to say it's down to Odegaard, but
did you go and press him all the time, Raya? After Alvarez
100%.
Nearly caught him especially?
I think it's too late. I think it's too late now. I think there was a moment where you just take a risk and you just run at him and see what happens. But now they've given him time to make. He played a wonderful ball down the line. But I think there'll be subs at half time.
Oh, hold on. Do you think that Arteta will do as he suggested that he may do in a game? Do you think he might? Is that what you were implying, or have I jumped to conclusions?
Forgive me, I should have put a full stop there. I was actually referring to Man City subs. But yeah, I mean, again, had City put more pressure on him. I mean, the chance for Alvarez, it wasn't even a chance. You know, David Raya is running with the ball, thinking that he's got time to play it out, and then Alvarez, as we've said so many times, comes from nowhere, gets the block on. There was a moment there was jitters. When the cross came in for Haaland, ended up going for the corner, he's in a bad position. I mean, there's enough there for Arteta to, I think, see if he's a man of his thoughts, if not his words.
Okay.
Yeah. But it is still 0-0.
It is indeed still 0-0, and there is still 11 men on each team as well. 11 players on each team, which of course we couldn't say this morning for the women's game. Jorginho got an early yellow that was checked by VAR. What did you make of it, Paul?
I thought it was a yellow. I did. The Jorginho one. Obviously Bernardo's picked up one as well, and then I think we're going to go and talk about Kovacic. You know, and I think he's, if we're being completely honest and unbiased, you've got to say he's a very lucky man to stay in the pitch. You know, he's been booked for a tackle. I don't think he really had to make the first one for as bad as it was, and then it gets checked by VAR, and didn't think it was a straight red, but you have seen them given. Yeah. And then obviously 5-10 minutes later to go and do a similar challenge, I think he's very lucky. For somebody who has experience as well, you know, we said before he's Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Chelsea, 4 Champions League, he's gave the referee an opportunity to send him off there. Fortunately he didn't. And you know, he's treading the line, because if he's one more foul, whether it's a bad one or not, it could be a cumulative fouls, anything else. He's given the referee the perfect excuse to give him a second yellow now.
Yeah, because there was a tackle after when he was already on the yellow that felt like a yellow card. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think if Kovacic had the first yellow, I think he would have got a yellow card for the second one on Declan Rice. But I think the referees refereed that part correctly, because we don't want to see people getting sent off. We don't want to see games like this getting messed up because of, whether it's 11 against 10 or 11 against 9 or whatever. I think he done the right thing. Can't do it again, mind. So he's experienced enough to know better. He should do better, and I think he will just stay on his feet, because I'm sure Pep will tell him to stay on your feet.
Would you leave him on at half-time, given the fact that he's on a yellow and he's had a couple of challenges?
No. I think the first one, like Dico said, I mean, if you're playing devil's advocate, then a red card would not have been totally out of order. The fact that it's a yellow, the fact it hasn't gone beyond VAR check is one thing. I think with the second one, which is the difficulty, it should be a yellow card. But when you look at it live from the referee's point of view, there was nothing to suggest that Declan Rice wasn't play acting. There was a bit of theatrics afterwards, and maybe that has just thrown the mind of the referee thinking, OK, he's looking for a foul. It wasn't a real foul. He can't go to VAR because it's a yellow card decision, even if it was a second. So just for the simple sake, that's the way Kovacic plays. And next time the referee will go into that change room, he will probably see all the video evidence as well. It's a question that you don't need him to ask. And I also think that Jack Grealish on that left would put in better crosses and score, get assists for Haaland.
And do you still think that is City's best out?
I do, yeah. Because at the moment we're not really creating any chances. I mean, everything that's happened has been down to Arsenal making mistakes. That one cross that came in was probably City's best chance. It's just eluded Haaland, but I think Jack, he's already proven it enough times this season. Get the ball in far. Yeah, Jack, come on.
Right, before we go on and talk about perhaps any other changes that we make in the second half, I just want to quickly remind you all about the wonderful new documentary, Rise, the story of our season. Last season, cameras followed around our women's team, and the documentary has just come out on City Plus. Here's a little sneak preview for you.
I like what I'm seeing from the players at the moment.
We have to show that nasty side, and when we need to, we fight.
It's going to be one heck of a run-in, and City are very much in the thick of it.
So that's available on City Plus now, Rise, the story of our season. So we are 5 minutes or so away from the second half in today's Premier League game against Arsenal. We're mentioning any changes that perhaps City might make. Kevin, do you think City should be doing anything different in the second half?
I've seen a couple of creases in what City do that could exploit Arsenal. I think that deep run that Phil Foden's making, he's making a run from his left-hand side straight, and he's expecting a diagonal ball. He nearly got in a couple of times, but that seems to be the ball where Manchester City are getting in down the left-hand side for the cross. As David said, Haaland just missed it. So they seem to be working out that left-hand side a bit better than the right-hand side, although Kyle Walker has really supported on the right-hand side without much quality coming in the box.
Yeah, he's had some darting runs down that right-hand side today, Kyle. And Paul, just quickly, while I think about it, will you just explain to everybody where the middle and the attackers have been playing? Because I've tried to follow it.
I'm still trying to follow it myself.
Yes, okay, great. I'm glad that's not just me then, because at 1 minute Rico Lewis was playing. So Bernardo Silva was playing next to Kovacic, and Rico Lewis was playing up next to Phil Foden, which I kind of wasn't expecting.
Yeah, but it looks as if we all tried. But I was pretty certain what the formation was going to be at the start of the game, and then you see Bernardo Silva sitting. He's the one that's sitting in the front of the back four. Then obviously you've got Kovacic and Rico. Rico's actually playing further up. He's playing like the number 10, isn't he? Just
I think they're doing it on the press.
Yeah.
Rico's legs are possibly better than Bernardo. So Rico's doing the press forward and then sort of the shifting and the change. But
and then you've got Phil, obviously, on the left-hand side. And Alvarez on the right-hand side. But Kevin's bang on. That third-man run, Phil Foden's made it 3 or 4 times. And I think what's happening, Haaland's, he's occupying Gabriel.
Yeah.
And obviously the full-back, Ben White's staying really wide. because Foden's out there, so that gap for the third man run midfielder to get in there is there, and Gabriel doesn't want to leave Haaland because he knows if he comes out that space what can happen, and Phil's done it 2 or 3 times. There was once he just nearly got in with it, so you can tell it's something that they're looking to try and do and exploit that space between Ben White and the other centre half, Gabriel.
You explain it to me and you explain it very clearly, but I still find it so hard to get my head around, like the tactics that are involved in this. And we've had a question in actually, which is perfect timing, from Clement from Ghana, who's WhatsApped to say, do you think that Arteta will tactically come up against Pep to win this game? So is this now a battle of tactics, Kevin?
100%. I think David mentioned it, where Real was struggling. He was putting Arsenal in more problems playing that ball into Declan Rice. Kovacic come in and made a couple of tackles, and then Manchester City are winning the battle, whereas I think they've adjusted now. If that's not on, they're going long, and they caught City once over the top for Jesus. The adjustment has to be made. I'm sure Pep will adjust again to trap, because they put Real under pressure. They nearly scored. Alvarez nearly scored just by putting him under pressure. So I think the pressure's going to come at some stage, but it's just a matter of where it's going to come from.
Just as I start to get my head around it tactically, it'll change, and then I'll be looking all over the show again. In terms of Arsenal, do you think they need to do anything different in the second half?
I just think, like Kevin said at the very start, that they look good possession-wise, but once they get 20 yards out, 18-yard box, they've not really got any threat in the box. City are getting people behind the ball ever so well, we've got to say. Said beforehand, Nketiah, he's not really a striker that likes the things coming to him. He wants to play off the shoulder, and he's playing a slightly different role at the minute, and they just look a little bit toothless once they get up there. They look really good in the eye, possession-wise, but they don't look as if they're going to hurt, and that might be Martinelli's back in the bench today. Yeah. And the one thing with Trossard, Nketiah and Gabriel Jesus have no real blister and pace to try and get in behind, and that's the one thing Martinelli has got.
We are hearing, we can see Martinelli is on the pitch warming up. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's coming on, but he is out on the pitch warming up, so that could be a change for them. David, a little word about Erling Haaland, because obviously he's on a few games now without scoring, although I still believe that Erling Haaland scoring is inevitable, and he remains my captain on fantasy football, by the way. I would never, ever go against him.
You and the other 2 billion people.
Yeah, well, I think half the community went for Son this week, which probably backfired on them as well. But
no
what does Erling need to do differently, or what does he need to do in this second half?
I don't think anything. I mean, the way that City are playing this game is, again, very, very different to the 2 games last season, and very different to a lot of the ways they've played. And I just think that the outlet on the left-hand side is where Pep needs the ball to be. And you need someone on that left-hand side who can feed the ball into Erling. Interesting when Dickov talks about the ball over the top, because one of them was for Erling. I think there was a couple where the bounce just wasn't quite right. He hasn't played badly in today's game in the way this was playing. He has to continue doing what he's doing and hope that either the players who stay on the field can give him just that little bit extra service, or they bring someone on who can give him the service. He's fine. You're going to get captain's points this week.
Good, I hope so. Kovacic was in the tunnel there, we saw him, so it doesn't look like there's any changes for City as yet. And there's your man on the bench, David, so no substitutions for goalkeepers for Arsenal yet either. So thank you for joining us for the half-time Match Day Live. We will all be back with you at full time, where hopefully we are talking about City going back to the top of the Premier League. Now, get your second half commentary on the City app with Alistair Mann, and he's joined by Neil Lennon.
Thanks, Natalie. Mateo Kovacic does come out for the start of the second half. Doubtless he'll have been told to stay on his feet, make sure that all the tackles he makes are completely clean and without any kind of ambiguity whatsoever.